Jay Short with the super chat says, "Can y'all touch on the ageism in hip hop, especially with radio? I feel like it hurts Snoop and Nas more because they're still active. They don't do that in other games. U2 and Bono can still get radio. Okay, well, this is my issue, and I've had this issue with those old school, quote unquote, old school formatted radio stations, and the fact that it's pretty much a money grab for the record labels, right? They don't support, and we're going to get to this when we talk about Gangsta Boo, too. The issue in ageism, the issue is that they don't have these artists under contract anymore. So they're only going to play the stuff that's going to make the labels money. And, labels don't keep hip hop artists signed after a certain age. After a certain age, hip hop artists go independent. And when you go independent, radio's not going to play your shit. That's just what it is. Now, the U2s and, Rod Stewart's, these people got record deals for life. They're never without record deals. Now, I will say this, though. It ain't even just a black and white thing in that sense. R&B used to do the same thing where it was like the old school stations that my parents were listening to when I was growing up. If Barry White came out with something new, they would play it. But again, that's because they were still signed to record labels. I don't think it's an ageism thing. I think it's the fact that when hip-hop artists get a certain age, they stop signing to the majors. And when you stop signing to the majors, you ain't getting no radio play.
That's how Hollywood works. Yeah. Hollywood literally tells a woman at a certain age, it's like, no, you're mom now, and your salary is now this. And they're like, what?
And can I keep it real? Because, you know me, I'm a 3-6 fan, man. I've met Gangsta Boo a few times. I got friends that know her really well, knew her really well. When I see somebody like Drake, who has been ripping off Memphis for 10 plus years, and never even had Gangsta Boo on any of his efforts, soon as she passes, jumps out the window on some rest in peace, yada yada, queen, legend, yada yada. It lets you know that these major artists, and I don't even want to call them major artists, corporate artists, because they're signed to corporate entities. They can't acknowledge independent artists that are active until they're either dead or damn near dead. You know what I mean? Like, they act like they don't exist. We saw this with Pimp C, where it was like when Pimp C was out here doing his own thing, when he came out, he was very vocal about the fact that these niggas that he did favors for weren't, doing the same thing for him because he was independent with his shit. Or he maybe had limited, major corporate help, but they don't even acknowledge you if you're not signed to the corporate entities. But as soon as you drop dead, rest in peace, Pimp C, then you have all these, Pimp C verses on all these niggas' efforts and this and that. I predict that we're going to get a whole bunch of Gangsta Boo verses, possibly on some Drake efforts, possibly on some Glorilla efforts. That probably wouldn't have been in place, otherwise. And, she stayed independent. She tried to do her independent
The Glow shit might have been in place because they were talking, and that's hometown. It's different. I told you I don't have family. Mike. I got family from Tennessee. I got family from the Mound, from Memphis. It's like, no, that's different. So Glow might have got a different look from being from, like,
that was an old text, Coop. And she is on the song with Glow and Lotto. I think it's Lotto's song, but she's on the hook.
I think Glow would have given Gangsta some real love, and it would have been legit.
I disagree with you, and I don't think it's because of her specifically. No, I think is when you're an independent artist, a major artist is not allowed to put you on their shit to blow you up. They're just not. Give me an example.
No, that's what I'm just telling. I'm just telling you. Memphis worked different. Home team worked different. Memphis is different.
I hear you, but the industry is what it is. Like, you know what I'm saying?
And Glow is really the first female to come out of Memphis since Gangsta to really you know what I'm saying? It's different because of that. Like, that's something that the town asking for. You feel me? They're gonna do that for the town if nothing else.
I don't know, man. I mean, I hear you. In theory, it sounds good, but the way
I don't think you're thinking about some of the tenuous circumstances that have happened in Memphis the last couple of years too. It's like, no. That was a great moment for them potentially to help provide some unity in a community that could use some.
I hear you, man, but the major labels don't care about that shit. They
No,
don't.
the man, but the major labels can't do so much. You can't stop Glorilla from doing a
Sure
song with
you
Gangsta
can.
Boo.
Sure you
No, no,
can.
I mean, not in today's age. That's what I'm saying. Like you say that, Mike, but it's like no, you really can't in today's
So
age.
when has it happened?
I think I mean, Mike, I mean, we see instances of it happening all the time. Here's the
With
reality of the
who?
matter. Like, these artists don't fuck with these independent artists, not because the label's telling them to, but because their camp is telling them to. That's not the label. Don't put that bullshit off on the
It
label.
is on the label because at
No,
the
it's
end
on
of
the
the day,
people, Mike.
this is
It
the
is.
thing, Coop.
The label don't tell these niggas, okay, so you're gonna be in this town, and while you're in this town doing these shows, these are the local artists, and you can't work with them. No, it does not work like
This
that.
is the thing, Coop.
It does not work like
This
that
is
at
the thing.
all.
They'll tell them that yo, you
That's
can
weak ass
sign
niggas
this
in their weak
person.
ass camps.
Let's keep it real, Coop. At the end of the day, I mean, we seen it with Pastor Troy back in the day, right? When he was independent, all these guys who used him to
And
get
that
deals,
wasn't and
by
that
the
wasn't the
time they got
label.
deals, they couldn't work with him. Because this is
That's
the
not the
logic
label.
behind it, right?
That's not the
The,
label though, Mike. You're talking like it's like some people pulling the strings on the artist. That's not the art. That's not the label. That's the artist, and they can't like, well, what's that artist gonna do for you to move these records and to help you do such and such? We can't do that right now. You
so,
hot. That person ain't hot. That ain't the label. That's management.
so why
That's
does it
their
take?
team.
Why does it
That's the
take?
artist.
But why does it?
That's Drake.
So why does it take for Gangsta Boo to drop dead to get an acknowledgement from Drake?
Because how does it behoove Drake to work with her, him being who he is while she's alive? If you can show me that, I'll show you a reason that he should fuck with her. But until then, I'm not about to blame the label because here's the reality of the matter. Mike, he got a whole song from crashing a Soulja Boy studio session. Right. Don't tell me that you couldn't do a record with Gangsta Boo. You do what you feel like what's convenient for you when you have certain clout and influence and power. If Drake wanted to enforce a situation and if he wanted to do a record with Gangsta Boo, it would happen.
Well, see, this is the thing, Coop, and this is why I even brought this up in the context of what Jay Short said. At the end of the day, the major labels or the major corporations are the ones that make people like Drake and Glorilla household names, right? You know what I mean?
That
Like,
is correct.
it is what it is.
Yes.
What their mindset is A, this is why you're not getting, a Snoop Dogg independent effort, or let's say even a Nas independent effort on Hot 97. Hot 97 is not going to play any of KD3 because Nas isn't signed to any of the corporations, right? That basically run their rotation. So
No,
the
I get
same
what you're
thing.
saying in that
So the
regard.
same thing goes for like, yo, we made somebody like a Glorilla famous. This is counterproductive. These artists going back and giving back to the other artists that don't even have to sign to us to piggyback off of the work that we did. That's how they see it. Because if they didn't see it like that, KD3 would be spinning on Hot 97 right now. If you're
Which it
not
could
linked
be.
in, you're not going to no brunch. You're not, you know what I'm saying? You're not making no records with their artists. You're not. Because they got to clear it.
I
They
would like to
own
let
these
everybody
guys.
know is going to these brunches. Most of you guys are black dads. You need to buy some black dad gang hoodies. Since you're not inviting us to the brunch, you need to buy some black dad gang hoodies. No, I'm just joking. No, I get what you're saying. I think
Because
all
they got
jokes
to
aside,
clear it
Mike.
with the label. You know what I mean? Like, you remember
No,
back in the day when you
no,
would read, like,
yes,
courtesy of Sony or whatever. Yeah.
no. Truthfully and respectfully. So this is what I mean. Let me let's give an example of something. Now, I know because I've always been a heavy tea leaves reader that when Noriega was doing his first album that came out in 1998, that if I'm not mistaken, he and Nas did 5 records together.
Mm-hmm.
Now all we got was Body in the Trunk.
Right.
Because this is 98. Nas is going double, triple platinum around the time. And they didn't want to stretch him thin sonically away from his records to promote Noriega stuff. So all you get is Body in the Trunk, right? Which, by the way, is fucking brilliant. I love Body in the Trunk. It's one of my favorite Nas features, actually. Like, it's in his top 10 features to me because it's him in storytelling mode, and he's our best storyteller. Now, that's 1998, Mike. And what I'm trying to tell you is that everything that you're saying is true. But what I'm saying is that the way this game works now, and the way things digitally can get released and packaged and put together, is that, oh, no. That song can happen and find its way into the atmosphere if the artist really wants it to, because it's not hard to make it happen. You don't need the label to make it happen, even if you're signed to the label. The access, to quote Future, free dance.
Oh, it
You feel me?
is.
The access free bands. So what you're saying might be true about what the label may be telling Drake and how the business and the corporate structure works, because you're totally right. I mean, we just gonna go ahead and say it. Taj is literally telling me there's a certain entity that's very powerful in hip hop that's keeping Nas from doing certain collaborations. I wonder who runs that entity. Exactly. So that's the part of what you're saying that's true. Here's the other part of it. The artists don't have to fucking drop that shit under their name and drop it under anything involving the label in these days and times with how shit digitally works. And then at the end of the day, what the fuck is the record label really about to do if Drake want to do the record anyway? They gonna drop Drake? Okay.
Well, he's
Somebody gonna come pick Drake up real quick, and you gonna look like the fucking fool. And so the artists need to start understanding their power in these days of times where you really have free bands like that.
well.
Like
You know
this,
what? Wait, and I agree with that sentiment when it comes to Drake, right? I agree with that, but Glorilla's not in that position, right? Like she can't sit there and say, "Yo, I'm gonna do this," or drop me. She's just trying to get. She's trying to get on, and I think that's a mentality for a lot of artists when they get on. They're like, "Look, I want to do this, this, and this, but I ain't trying to rock the boat.
let me get this money.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get here, and then I'll go do that later. And then by the time later hits, you're done. You know what I mean?
Which they should be doing. But what I'm telling you is that you can make that song and you can give it some life. Like, and here's what I mean. Even just doing the song and putting the word out about it can apply some pressure. You feel what I'm saying? It's like, that record floating around there in Memphis right now. They got in the studio and did the record. I wonder why we ain't hearing the record.
I've said
That's
this
what I mean
before.
about people understanding their power and applying pressure. I mean, Mike, look at how people are pulling up on us. We're blessed about to be. We've been doing this podcast, Mike, for 33 months now. We've been doing it for 33 months. We're going to celebrate our 3-year anniversary in March of doing this podcast.
On YouTube, I think we've been on YouTube for what? Going on 2 years now, maybe?
It'll be 2 years in the summer that we've been on YouTube. It'll be 3 years total for the podcast this March. I mean, Mike, it's 3 years. It's almost 3 years later, and people are pulling up on us talking about how we change things just because we said something. And so what I'm telling you is, no, the artist is very much capable of saying something and changing things. Somebody pulled up in our Twitter today and tagged me and you and was like, yo, these lists been different since y'all been pulling up and checking these dudes about these lists. And they have been, because they're not getting away with it as much anymore, because there's a faction of the community that has attached themselves to us that's listening for better or for worse. Like, I'm not even going to lie, Mike, Vibe's Top 25 list, they are literally some of their descriptions for some of the albums is literally stuff that we've said on this show about some of the albums that they're covering.
I can believe it.
We are literally impacting it. And so don't tell me that we can impact it and somebody like Drake can't. That is totally
we're not
bullshit.
under contract either. And so I don't know what
right.
those
No. We got some
are.
free bands too. We got some free bands too, Mike, for real.
Well, listen, I think that the thing is, when you have people who are under contract, giving back to people who aren't under contract for the corporations is counterproductive. That's like, I hate to say it like this. I hate to do slavery correlations, but you're empowering. It's like having a slave that's empowering the free ones. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're in a position to somehow empower the free ones, you have to do that on a sneak. You can't do that all out in public. You can't.
But Mike,
you're going to get reprimanded for that.
No, we're on the same page. I think maybe we're miscommunicating more than we usually do.
Yeah.
I'm saying do it on the sneak.
Yeah, and I think that
I'm telling Drake to do it on the sneak. Don't tell me that you can't do it. You better call Harry and get your ass on the Underground Railroad then, nigga.
Well, I'm going to say this. At this point, after he's done Knife Talk and after he's done all this Memphis stuff that's been very Memphis-centric, if I hear a Gangsta Boo verse on one of his shits, at this point, I'm going to be very disappointed.
No, I'm going to take issue too, and we're going to call him out for it.
But
this is what I mean. But this is where we control it. Is that like, now that we pulling up about it, it's like, oh, you better not do that.
This is what I would like to see in the future. I think that these artists who are signed to these corporate entities, you need to still give the respect and the collaborative work to the legends that are out here that are active, that are doing it on their own. You know what I'm saying? That needs to still happen. The fact that these major artists act like these independent artists, even if their legends don't exist, that's a problem. And we're seeing
Well,
it
hold
here.
on.
Now everybody's jumping out the window. Rest in peace, Gangsta Boo. Rest in peace, Gangsta Boo. She been active. She been active for 15 straight years as an independent artist, and ain't none of y'all work with her.
So let's start putting it on a scale. If I'm sitting up here telling you in 2023 now that there are people out here that are preventing Nas from working with people. This is what I mean about the case study and starting at the top. If it's happening to Nas, what do you think really is happening to Gangsta Boo while she was out here?
Cool.
That's what I keep trying to say about how it's important to start at the top and start trickling it down, because what you have when you mistreat somebody like a Nas at the top is that Gangsta Boo doesn't stand a motherfucking chance, and that's not right and that's not fair.
Yeah. And like your whole work and catalog and everything that you're currently doing and your legacy is disregarded until you know what I'm saying, pass away.
Until
And when
you
you
pass
pass away,
away.
people want to bring everything back up. Now she's the queen of the South. Like, you know, I've been saying that stuff like that on this microphone and people have been calling me crazy, whatever, whatever. I really hate that it takes something like this for people to be appreciated for the work that they put in this game. Megan Thee Stallion sounds just like Gangsta Boo. Nobody wanted to acknowledge that. Now we'll probably get some sort of acknowledgement of that. Unfortunately, I wish Megan. I
That's
wish
the collab
Megan
you
would
need to
have.
be worried about.
I wish Megan would have reached out to her and actually done a collaboration with her. Man, I think it's very sad that she didn't give her that. I've never heard. Maybe I could be wrong, but she didn't give her that proper credit and acknowledgement for inspiring part of her style, at least. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can hear Megan, and that's why I like Megan so much, because she reminds me of 2001 Gangsta Boo, and I'd be hard pressed to believe that she's never heard those songs. She studied those songs. You can tell what people listen to. You know what I mean, when you hear it in their style. But I lost my other train of thought. But what I was gonna say on top of that, because it's a whole lot.
Well, hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, what I was about to tell you is that I know we've been kind of talking about Boo. Let's I got a slide in a second. Let's
Okay.
I wanted to know if you had anything else, because we kind of just transitioned into the Gangsta Boo to close out, which is what we planned on doing anyway. So I just kind of wanted to, because I seen that you was going, and I know how you feel about Mike. I know how you feel about 3-6. I know how you feel about Memphis rap scene. I know how you feel about Gangsta Boo. So I know you're partial to this.
Yeah.
So I want to tell you and here's my question to you, I guess, because I do need to get out of here shortly.
Okay.
What do you think Gangsta Boo's legacy should be? I think that just needs to be our last little brief segment before we wrap this up. What should her legacy be? And I'd like to hear it from you, because you are somebody that I think is a viable source of it, because through our discourse over the years of knowing each other for almost 2 decades now, or what I think is actually 2 decades now, 3-6 is part of your life and part of your hip hop experience and upbringing, and part of what I believe influences you and makes you want to be part of this culture. And so I kind of want you to share in your own words what Gangsta Boo means to you as somebody that grew up loving this scene, and where her placement is in the history of hip hop and female MCs, because I think you're a good person to speak about it.
I think that she's extremely underrated. I think that the work that she put together in Inquiring Minds and even Star 69, I mean, it's right there with any female MC, period. And I think that when you come out of the South, especially in that era, people pigeonholed you to just the quote unquote South, Queen of the South, this and that. She was a writer, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I hate to say it like this, but I just brought it up. But not a lot of female MCs, period, didn't have any ghostwriter in sight. She didn't have a ghostwriter in sight. She was in a group with 5 other guys, made 3 albums with them, got in this game at 15, 16 years old, sounded super comfortable on the mic, veteran, you know, on some classic records. I think that, again, her style inspired the Megans of the world. Her style inspired, I think Crime Mob's approach to even Knuck If You Buck, and how Diamond and Princess have their signature parts on that record, similar to what she did on Tear the Club Up. I think that, some of her the fact that 3 6 had such an independent approach might have hurt her overall legacy in that sense, as far as not being mentioned, and that's why I bring up the whole corporate entity thing. But the impact is still there, and people who know, and you could tell that somebody like a Megan grew up listening to Gangsta Boo. Now, unfortunately, it seems like when you sign to a major entity, you can't acknowledge those individuals who did it in that way. And I think it's very important that you bring up Nas. We just saw what Nas did with KD3. He gave you everything as far as commercial viability. He's from New York City. He's a New York legend. He's a hip hop legend. Hot 97 didn't play any of those records on that album. And so I think her legacy, I guess, would be an underground queen. But what we need to do in hip hop at this point, these major artists or these corporately owned artists, I hate to say it like that, but it seems like
Oh,
that.
say it.
They
No,
can't
say it.
they can't continue to let these corporations allow them to disregard the people who built the foundation for them and are still working. Like, we're in a digital era now where everybody should be able to, you know, basically be on one page. And that's why it's so important, man. Like, people like Hit Boy shouting us out. Like, nobody does that. Like, I'm sure everybody's watching, but the fact that you have somebody who is at Hit Boy's level, who acknowledges that stuff doesn't happen all the time. You know what I
So,
mean?
so let me give you some proof to life. First of all, everything that I thought that you would say, you did say, and thank you for saying it because it needed to be said. Let's talk about, and here's what I mean about how we impact the culture. You know, I pulled up on Matt today from the Yardies.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Matt.
And he said, yeah, the homie Matt doing good. We had lunch together today. He bought me lunch too. Matt don't never buy nobody shit. So I took that as like a real blessing. He was happy to see me. But two things, and I'll leave you with this. Like, everything that you said was beautiful, well said, well stated, and needed to be said. I hope the artists who are actually listening to us that like to give us vitriol for, maybe not holding them in the highest regard at certain times, where they like to take this message maybe more and run with it even than more of my diatribes and even some of your diatribes. But Matt submitted a couple things to me. First of all, when we're sitting out on his balcony, he's like, I seen the nigga Hit Boy shouted you out. He said, that's big. Niggas don't do that.
Exactly. They don't.
He said, if niggas would have shouted me out like that for the work that me and my little brother did, I'd probably still be making beats.
And that's where I'm coming from with what I'm saying as far as, like, Gangsta Boo not getting the proper placement.
Matt spoke proof to life to it today, because here was the next thing that he told me. You know, he was like, you seen who on the list that got to go up against Thug, right? I was like, yep. He was like, if I don't get out, there's a chance that I'm on that list because I'm making records for dudes that's on that list. I'm in the studio. I got Lil Bro with me too. He's like, you know how much our life could have changed just in this moment today with that being handed down? That's part of why I went to see him too. You know what I'm saying?
They know that.
People he been in the yo with.
Yeah. They know that. They know that once you get to a certain level, and and I know Drake's the poster child for this, because a Drake feature could change an artist's whole career. But one shout out or one tweet from an artist that has millions of real fans, that could change a podcast, a producer or artist forever, and they know that. And a resurgence of somebody like an artist that people just aren't that familiar with. Let's just say like a Skinny Pimp or something, just to be, just for example. If Skinny Pimp was still active, whatever, and somebody didn't know Skinny Pimp in this current generation, and an artist that they know, like an ASAP, does a record with him or something, that's a whole resurgence. But see, they know that. You know what I mean? And that should happen more.
But this is the culture part of it too. Like, so I'm sitting down at the crib and the nigga just tell me, he's like, Nas and Hit Boy fuck with you. He said, that's better than money in rap, nigga.
I mean, respect, and respect to Hit Boy.
That's
like I
better
said,
than money in rap. He was like, you got a shout out from Hit Boy? He's like, you're telling me that you talk on a thread with Nas's marketing and production manager for music? I was like, yeah. He was like, fuck that other shit. He's like, do that shit, my nigga. He's like, I ain't getting no shout out. And I know the niggas that he knows. Like one of the, like I don't think you know, Mike. I mean, Mike, you know, Matt done had Gunna on a record that he's produced.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like Gunna's on the hook. Like they know fam. So it's like, oh, okay.
Let me
when
get to
he
some of these
said
super
that
chats
was
before
different
you
coming
slide.
from him. And this is a producer who was trained by Dallas Austin in Dallas Austin studio. This ain't no regular nigga that's telling me this today when I'm in his crib. Like my nigga Matt ain't no regular dude.
I'm gonna get to these super chats before you slide. I'm gonna see what people got to say. Kendall Outlaw says, Coop, you left Biggie off your top 10. Why?
No, that's what I'm saying is that we're gonna have to start addressing that because it's like
we got to start addressing the catalog.
When Biggie died in 1997, y'all, it's 2022.
And
think about the records that Jay and Nas and even Rakim and KRS-One and Cool G, like think about all the people that were already in the conversation with him and what they've done in the 25 years since. And that's what I mean. It's kind of one of those conversations where it's like, no, it's like there needs to be a forever list and he needs to be part of the forever list, but not with maybe necessarily a number attached to it, because that kind of makes, and this is what I mean, he's where the conversation gets murky. And that's what I mean. Well, just asterisk that and let everybody in, because it's like people going to be like, well, he got ready to die in Life After Death. So, and Snoop ain't got 2 albums that good. So how you going to have Snoop ahead of him? Right. It's that shit.
T Nitty with the super chat says Pac said that he was from NY at the MTV Awards interview. Yes, he did. West Coast.
But I'm about saying, how many times has he claimed the West Coast? Y'all talking about one time?
He got a song called "Live and Die in New York."
He got a song called California. He got New York Love.
I ain't heard it. They might have it on those underground bootleg.
I believe he says at the end of California Love, let's show how these fools, how we do it on the west side, because you and I know that it's the best side. Does that sound like a nigga that's claiming the Bronx?
Jay Short says, did Coop infer that Rock Nation is blackballing Nas? No, Coop didn't say that.